All right, it is RamView, February 17th, 2022, and I'm Joe Trozian, the host of RamView, and I am grateful for another opportunity to be talking Rams football as we move past Super Bowl and we move into this new world of 2022 in terms of thinking about next year. And the whole theme at the parade was run it back, run it back. But I want to get a couple things across right away. You might not be able to see it. Let me see if I can see it here. You might be able to see my special Super Bowl shirt that now I'm not one to buy any paraphernalia that's modern. You know, I'm not going to get an NFC championship t-shirt. I'm not going to get a Super Bowl thing or anything like that. It's just not in my nature to buy those things. However, if I'm given one, I will wear it because it's nice, right? But in my view, in many ways, to go out and flood the stores and do all that, it's a bit cache, it's a bit corny and stuff. But with this right here, this was sent to me by my wonderful sister-in-law, Robin, who lives in Cincinnati proper, just across the river. And she was one of the ones, those Ohio types, kind of like my friend Rhapsody on FB, that really likes to tell me that, the Joe Burrow is going to change the world and the Bengals were going to win and everything. But I'll give credit to while Rhapsody is ever seeing but never perceiving, my sister-in-law, Robin, spoke to my brother and respected my opinions. And she was going to send me a Joe Burrow shirt. And I was still going to wear it, but I was going to lay down on the ground and hold my knee while I was letting a picture being taken of me wearing that shirt. But she sent me this because she lost faith in Joe Burrow because she stopped looking into Joe Burrow's eyes and was no longer mesmerized. So, Robin, thank you for the shirt. It's very comfortable, and I will wear it. I'll put it in my rotation with other things here. So, with all that said, want to keep going. Thank you for the subscriptions and the likes and the follows and the nice words. Really fascinating because I expected, and it did happen after Super Bowl Sunday, the clicks went down. But they kind of picked up yesterday, so that was kind of an encouragement. And like I said, we're just going to keep plugging away as often as we can on Monday through Friday on RamView, and largely talking Ram football, but in and around the things that deal with football. Today we've got some retirement news or non-retirement news. We got quarterbacks, Rams quarterbacks, free agent quarterbacks, and quarterbacks in the draft, and then we're going to talk about the edge rusher, the NFC West, because the Rams won the Super Bowl because of what? It really boiled down to, we thought they could run the ball, they couldn't run the ball. We thought it was, excuse me, their offense. Yeah, I choke on that thinking about talk amongst yourselves. I choke on that because we all thought the Rams were going to run the ball, and they didn't. And it still leaves a lump in my throat. And you get humbled real fast sometimes when you think you know everything. And I was positive the Rams would be able to run the ball, but I wasn't the only one. But then the Rams couldn't throw the ball. So what was the difference? The difference was the Rams got to Joe Burrow 7 times, once in the first half, 6 times in the second half. And so those edge rushers are a key thing. And in the NFC West, which, you got Russell Wilson in Seattle, you got Stafford in Los Angeles, you still have Kyler Murray in Arizona, who maybe we're not thrilled with, but you know what? The dude can play ball. And then, Jimmy G. We don't know. It's going to be Trey Lance in San Francisco. The edge is really important, so we're going to break that down. To answer a quick question, no, I didn't go to the parade. I am not a parade boy. Never have been. Maybe when I was 9, when I grew up in El Monte, we had the prune parade, and you'd see Santa at the end, and it's like, what am I doing here? I live a couple miles from the Rose Parade route, and I've only been to the parade maybe 2 times, 3 times. It's just not. I'm not a parade guy. I'd rather sit home and be well rested to watch the Rose Bowl or celebrate the Rams' victory in the Ram Cave, which is what it was built for, right? 90% of my parking decisions are dining decisions are based on where there's adequate parking. If a place has lousy parking, I just won't eat there. So I'm not going to drive into LA to watch others celebrate, get hammered, and have ridiculous debates. Again, that's what the Ram Cave's for, except for getting hammered. So the Super Bowl was on Sunday. You had the hangover for everybody on Monday, the parade on Wednesday, and now on Thursday, I just want to reiterate, it's over. Okay. On the 222. Okay. It's 2022. The free agent period is building, the draft period is building, and the draft period is not a write-off for the Rams. It is something they really have to investigate, and that is where the nuance of being a Ram fan should come in. It can't be just horns up and Goff sucks, Stafford's great, Donald's my boy. You got to go into it because the Rams are so much more nuanced. You're blessed to have a team that is really trending and breaking new ground in the NFL, and you really need to invest in looking into the draft and what's around the corner. So that's where we're at, business at hand. I'm interested in these retirements, and I'm interested in a couple of other things, and then we're going to talk some quarterbacks here. But breaking news, guess what? Sean McVay and Aaron Donald aren't retiring. Okay, again, to me, that's the reach, that's the TMZ. If it's not TMZ itself or TMZ-like approach, that you need something to talk about, right? And now that's been squashed, and the new narrative is going to be Matthew Stafford was drunk and the photographer fell off the platform, fractured her spine, and it's going to be Matthew Stafford's fault because we need a new villain, right? And this is how the cycle goes because the media always has to have relevance and it needs something to write about. And so that's where we're at. They're not retiring. Stafford turned away, but what was he going to do? Jump down there? And you looked like Stafford looked like he was 3 sheets to the wind anyway yesterday, and I don't think he was going to be much help to the photographer that fell. The big story for me regarding retirements is Andrew Whitworth. He hasn't announced anything yet, and I get it. He didn't want to announce it on Super Bowl Sunday, didn't want to announce it at the I believe he even said, let's keep it right here. I don't want to be a distraction. Good for him. He's a good dude. But man, is he going to repeat at the age of 41 what he did at the age of 40? Still one of the top left tackles in football. We don't win without him. But man, at 41, is he going to do it? And he is 17 rocks a season. I think if he was to retire, I think that's a 16 rock hit. And when I say rock, $1 million that comes off the salary cap board. And I want him, but I don't want to keep him and have him break down in 2022 because inevitably we got to believe it's going to happen. I don't want to have him break down in 2022 and then have Joseph Noteboom go someplace else or miss out on the opportunity to bring in another left tackle. Just saying. And at this stage in his career, you're not going to move Rob Havenstein from right tackle to left tackle. Rob Havenstein is a mainstay there at right tackle, but then you also get worried about salary cap cuts. And so you worry about those things happening. And I love Andrew Whitworth, but I want him to make a decision now. And I'm not going to be broken up if the dude's got his ring, he's had his career, he's going to the Hall of Fame, he's Walter Payton guy. Man, ride off into the sunset, dude. It's okay. I'll allow you to ride off into the sunset. So that's what's on my mind, but also the business at hand. And one of the things that this all boiled down to, and I'm so glad it's happening, is the narrative's completely starting to flip on Matthew Stafford. The no-look pass now is becoming iconic, right? I don't think anybody really thought about no-look passes until Patrick Mahomes. But when Matthew Stafford performs a no-look pass, not only in the Super Bowl, but in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, on the game-winning drive of the Super Bowl, that 22-yard bolt to Cooper Kupp, that's legendary. That's iconic, and it's starting to gain momentum, and I really think it's going to be an iconic thing, in Super Bowl history. Everything from, maybe some of you don't remember, but if you're a football fan, Mike Bass and the returned blocked kick in Super Bowl VII, John Riggins' run, Marcus Allen's run. These things that they're just iconic. Isaac Bruce's touchdown, Mike Jones's tackle. And so this no-look pass is really going to be something that's going to attach itself in the Super Bowl in the biggest moment to Matthew Stafford's career. But here's the deal. He's coming back, excited. But what worries me is, what do the Rams do if something happens to Matthew Stafford? That was a pretty thin quarterback room last year, or this past year. And the Rams have not had a catastrophic quarterback injury since Sam Bradford was part of the team. Against Carolina, I know a lot of you won't remember, against Carolina in 2013, he was dragged down by Mike Mitchell going out of bounds, wrenched back on his knee and popped his ACL. And then he came back in the preseason of 2014 and tore the same ACL. I think it was one of the first snaps. I think he was handing the ball off and he was gone again. And that was the end of his Rams career. He was moved to Philly the following year. And that was the Nick Foles period for the Rams, the very brief Nick Foles period. But that was the last time the Rams had a catastrophic injury. So we went 15 through 21, 7 seasons, no catastrophic injury. And heaven help us, don't let it happen. You don't want anyone to get hurt. But if something happens mid-season, you're messed up because then it's desperation time. If something happens before the season, then you need something that could roll into so you don't lose your season. And right now, although he's a free agent, the two guys that were in the quarterback room for the Rams this past year were John Wolford and Bryce Perkins. And we saw Wolford and we saw Perkins, and Perkins had a really nice preseason. But Wolford actually started the last game of 2020, won the game that got us into the playoffs, and then he got hurt right away against Seattle. We saw him this year. There was nothing impressive about him in preseason or in the very limited action he saw. But Bryce Perkins seems to have a little more upside, right? Perkins is 6'3", Wolford is 6'1". Perkins looks 6'3", 215. Wolford does not look 6'1", 200. Wolford looks to me 5'11", 195. Perkins was at Virginia. Wolford was at Wake Forest. Perkins has a journey where he had some injuries, left Arizona State, went to junior college, led the nation in this passing, and then ended up at Virginia, had to fight his way into the starting lineup, went undrafted. But again, think about this. Who found him? The Rams scouting staff. And that's what the Rams do. They find these guys. And I think we saw a little bit of it during the preseason. And I really think maybe it's time to appreciate John Wolford. He had his Nelson Spruce moment. If you want to think back to 2016, he had his Nelson Spruce moment in that last game of 2020. And we want to say thank you and say bye to the Wolf, because he made something like about $825,000, I think, something like that last year. He's a free agent. Do you bump him up? Do you really want to give him any more money? I just can't imagine giving him any more money, because the Rams can't afford to give any other money, right? And so I'm thinking Bryce Perkins, an experienced backup, the guys that make the rounds, the Andy Daltons, the Teddy Bridgewaters, the Chase Daniels, the Case Keenums. Those guys are going to cost a little bit more. They're going to want more than one rock, more than $1 million, unless can they get a backup quarterback, which I've never heard of. I guess you can say this, is that the backup quarterback is chasing a ring. It's like, I've accomplished everything in the NFL. I've been in the league 10 years. I've thrown 15 passes. I got my pension all set up. I'm set for life. I'm healthy. I'll go be an analyst on one of the broadcast networks. But the only thing I'm missing is a ring, right? I want to get a ring, and I want to hold that clipboard while I'm getting a ring. And there's guys out there. So you got to wonder, would somebody be willing to take less to just come and be a backup to Stafford? Because if something happens to Stafford, everything goes down, right? And all that run it back stuff is going to run it down. In regards to the draft, within the Rams draft budget, I don't think they would spend their third round pick, and you got a third round and a fourth round. Are they going to go that high for a quarterback when they got interior line problems? Drafting a quarterback that high, to me, would be like building a hospital at the bottom of a cliff. I'd put up a fence on the cliff instead, because a fence would be offensive linemen. I don't want to build a hospital to take care of Matthew Stafford after he falls, and then we send in the third or fourth round draft pick who's not ready. I'd much rather let's draft offensive linemen and build a fence on that cliff and build that fence around Matthew Stafford and at least enhance his chances of not getting hurt. The names that came up in the draft, I've seen these quarterbacks. The two that struck me the most, that a couple of them have been mentioned, because there's other guys out there, and they're projected 4th and 6th round. One is Brock Purdy, Iowa State. We talked about him. It's interesting you see names keep popping up. The other one is Chris Oladokun from South Dakota State, and he's a big guy with a strong arm, had a really good year, and he's projected 4th through 6th. And he's a project, but that would be kind of like in the Rams realm, right? Bring somebody in late, maybe 7th round, and because they had to have 2 7th-round picks and use him. It's just interesting to see. I went back and I looked, could Perkins be the Rams' backup quarterback? Well, we saw him perform last preseason. Even on the depth chart, let's just say Wolford stays. Wouldn't you want to move Perkins up because he just seems to have more upside? He's dual threat. I read the scouting report on him. They said he doesn't look good aesthetically, but he also always produces results. I'd have to look at him harder to test that. They say he has adequate arm strength. He does have a quick delivery, and they say he's at his best in quick read and throw scheme, and that's what you're looking for maybe in a backup quarterback. You don't want to put too much pressure on him, and he fits the Rams' budget. I'd really like to see the Rams hang on to Perkins, move him up to second on the depth chart, and invest a little more time in him because he's been in the system now, right? He's been around for a couple of years, and it'll be nice to have somebody who knows the system as opposed to a 7th-round draft pick, or you bring in an emergency Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum. I mean, would that be a little bit of a Ram PTSD to bring you back in Case Keenum? It's like, oh, not Case Keenum, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking there in terms of quarterback, and we should break down all these positions as we go forward. So there's plenty to talk about between free agency and the draft and next season. And that's why the once a week thing doesn't work for me, because I get a little too jazzed and want to talk about all the stuff going on. I gotta sneeze. And so there's so much to talk about, right? Besides my allergies. But the other thing I wanted to break down, because we are in the NFC West, and in the NFC West, you got the Niners, Cardinals, and Seahawks. All of them have been winning teams in the past. Seahawks struggled this year. And so Rams play a third of their games against the NFC West. And the only thing that put them in trouble this year were 3 losses, 1 to the Cardinals and 2 to the 49ers. The Rams were 3-3 in the NFC West. And if they had won those games or gone 2 out of 3, the road would have been easier. And we might have been talking about a number 1 seed in the NFL in the playoffs. And I don't know if the Rams really have a home field advantage just yet. I think they will eventually, but not right now. They don't have home field advantage, but it's always an advantage not to go to Lambeau, right? It's always an advantage maybe not to go back to Tampa or to Dallas or even up to Seattle, right? So it's an advantage to at least be on your home turf, even if it doesn't necessarily give you a fan advantage. But looking at the edge rushers, right, and the pass rushes of our opponents in the NFC West, the 49ers, after the Rams, of course, we know were ranked number 1. The 49ers were the 4th best pass rush in the NFL. They graded out at 80.4. The Cardinals were the 9th best pass rush, and they were graded out at 77.1. And the Seahawks, which is Pete Carroll's team, they graded out at 63.5% at Pro Football Focus, and they were ranked 30th. Now, that's Pete Carroll's team. That's a defensive coach. They were ranked 30th going after the quarterback. Of course, the Rams were off the charts. The Rams were the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, pass rushing defense in the NFL. The 49ers had 55 sacks in the regular season, and they're kind of set up. Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa, I don't know. It's one of the Bosas, right? I get sick of them, the Bosas. He's locked up for 2 years. Samson Ebukam, the former Ram, had 9 sacks. He came on mid-season forward. He's locked up for another year. But the one guy who had a really nice season and a really good postseason was an edge guy named Arden Key, and he's a free agent. And the 49ers do have cap issues, like all the teams seem to have, but he was key. And so he's someone to keep an eye on. If he goes someplace else, do the 49ers have someone to step in for him? The Cardinals are interesting because they recorded only 40 sacks this year. They had 147 hurries, but I think they got fat on some big games. That first Tennessee game, they really came after the quarterback. Marcus Golden, not Chandler Jones, was the one that led them in sacks. Chandler Jones is the free agent that everyone's talking about, but his market value for them to get him back and re-sign him, his market value is about 14.6. I think that's somewhere in the Leonard Floyd range. Chandler Jones finished with 11 sacks last year. Not bad, 17 games, 11 sacks, but no. 5 of those sacks were against Tennessee in week 1. The next 5 weeks after that week 1 sack fest against Tennessee, you know how many sacks Chandler Jones recorded? 0. He didn't record any. He only finished with 11. Plus, he's turning 32. I don't know if his market is that big, and I'd love to see the Cardinals give him that money. I'd like to see them tied up a little more with him. But he's in his 30s. Marcus Golden's hitting 30 as well. But just to put in perspective, Cardinals going to re-sign him. His market value is 14.6. I can't imagine giving him 14.6, but let's just say he gets it. Kyler Murray wants to renegotiate, right? Do you know what Kyler Murray's market value is? 43.1 million. That's 43.1 rocks. That if they renegotiate Kyler Murray's contract and pay him, that's where they'll be. And what are they going to be doing salary cap wise after that? How are they going to put pieces around him? So you might be saying bye to Jones, but I hope not. I hope they sign him. That's good for us. It's good for the Rams. Going to the Seahawks, really a bad year. Only 39 sacks. Carlos Dunlap had a good year. Remember they made the deal for him with the Bengals a couple years ago. He did really well. Former USC guy. He was a third-round pick in 2018, Rasheem Green. He had a good year, but only 6.5 sacks. But guess what? After 2018, now he's a free agent. And they got to decide if they want to sign him. Darrell Taylor was another one that had a good year for the Seahawks, but it wasn't really a great year overall. 39 sacks, only 178 hurries. The Rams had over 241 hurries. That means pressuring the quarterback. The Rams return, of course, Leonard Floyd. They move Aaron Donald around. You want to call Aaron Donald an edge? I really wouldn't. He's just interior defender, wherever you want to call him. He's Aaron Donald. He's unto himself. And so then, of course, Von Miller. Von Miller is the one that's really interesting. And it sounds like, from what everyone is saying, that Von Miller wants to come back and play for the Rams in 2020. So that's really exciting news. If he can come back along with Floyd, I'm guessing they're going to lose Ogbo, but you're bringing back Justin Hollins, Terrell Lewis. None of these guys are world beaters, but again, you don't want to raise Okoronkwo into even a lower $3-4 million a year range, which is probably what he's going to be looking for, and if somebody will pay him that, because you just don't have the spread, you don't have the dough, and that's why Whitworth is such a big deal going forward. So we're gonna pull out. We're gonna come back tomorrow, and we're gonna talk more Ram football as we get set for the 2022 season. And you need to think about those things, because it's really important, because 2021 is over. It's over. And it's time for everyone to start thinking about the future and such. So I just want to say that thank you for clicking on. Give us your like. Hey, again, I wanted to say thank you for the people that asked about this. Tangent Dreams, my high school football novel, came out a few years ago. I think I've written better books since then, but this is my football novel. And if you want to check it out on Amazon or ask me questions, I think it's a good book, and I got some good reviews. So keep that in mind, and remember that.
Just remember this: 40 men together can't lose. Okay.
Yeah, you can't.
Just remember this:
you can't finish the day without talking about George Allen. There we go. So hey, folks, thanks for clicking on. Thanks for listening. Hit like, share. Thank you for adding this up and putting this in your rotation. Also, we are morphing into a podcast. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now is experimental with the sound bites and the music and different things. But it's just a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll get some more of the stuff wired. I'm looking to be on Spotify, hopefully by next week. I won't be in my standard place on Monday morning. I'm going to be working at a camp, and I'll be working from the office there. So you won't get to see my fantastic plastic brick wall behind me. All right, guys, thank you so much. And we will be talking to you soon. See you tomorrow.